The Diver's Cemetery. The nickname of the blue hole that sends chills down one's spine. What could have earned a diving site this horrible name? Yet instead of scaring away divers, it became an attraction. Every diver wants to know by experience what lies in the blue hole which made them call it the Diver's Cemetery. Are you enjoying our cave exploring videos and haven't subscribed yet? Please consider subscribing to our channel. The Blue Hole is located in the northern region of Dahab, Egypt. It's a site for diving and snorkeling and is mostly visited by divers who are ready to challenge their diving skills. This sinkhole goes as deep as 394 feet underwater, and it's also known as Diver's Cemetery. Most of the diving hazards across the world occur at the Blue Hole, recording about 130 to 200 deaths in the past few years. However, divers don't cease going for adventures at the Blue Hole. The plaques that were left at the Blue Hole on the cliff that's opposite the sinkhole are made in honor of those who died there. At the Blue Hole, there's an opening called the Saddle. It leads to the sea. It has a shallow depth of about 20 feet. Also, there's an arch, which is a long tunnel of about 85 feet. Its roof is 181 feet. The base of this arch declines as it gets closer to the sea, about 394 feet. There are many reefs and coral fish in the hole and its environment. Blue Hole is a prominent diving site because its shore is convenient to access and there's no current. In 1968, Alex Shell and his team broke the diving record at the Blue Hole using modern scuba diving, which was just over 383 feet by then. It was during their diving that the arch was discovered. The Blue Hole became a constant recreational site for divers in 1982. Divers usually start at a point nearby and descend through a narrow cave known as El Bells, due to the noise that divers' tanks make when they hit the sides of the cave's wall. After that, they'll move through an opening which leads to the open ocean. They'll move along with the current following the shore wall and exit via the saddle. You can also enter via the beach itself and dive into the hole at the Saddle, where most divers will go to the arch. This is where our story of today starts. In April of 2000, Yuri Lipski went for a dive at the Blue Hole. At that time, Yuri was 22 years old, and he already was an experienced and qualified scuba diver. He was well aware of the unique challenge of diving into the Blue Hole. Yuri was expected to have a safe dive due to his knowledge of what diving entails. He had a high level of confidence in his abilities and always wanted to go on a daring exploration. One example was his desire to carry out a bounce dive. This is a risky type of diving where one descends to dive to the depth quickly and bounces right back to the surface. This practice is so dangerous it is carried out in less than 15 minutes and can lead to decompression sickness. Yuri never bothered about being adequately trained for such dives. There are some areas underwater, like the arch in Blue Hole, that don't just require an experienced diver, but a technical diver. In this body of water, experience doesn't count as much as having professional diving skills. One could have several years of experience diving in caves that are shallow and less dangerous, but only the right skills, knowledge of different water territories, and availability of technical diving equipment will enable a diver to safely maneuver dangerous water territories. Technical divers such as Tariq Omar and Alex Hayes are well suited for a dive in places like this Blue Hole arch. There are lots of divers who are not ready for this rigorous training before embarking on an expedition as dangerous as this Blue Hole arch. In Tariq's words, they want to get into deep water before they get into deep knowledge. The reverse is supposed to be the case, to get into deep knowledge before entering deep water. Before the exploration, Yuri met with Tariq and told him he would love to have a video recording of the Blue Hole arch. Tariq was impressed by his desire and advised him that he would need to go through training with him for 2 weeks before he could dive into the arch region, because it requires in-depth technical knowledge. However, Yuri was there just for the weekend and wanted to go into the Blue Hole, regardless of his experience and certification. Days before he would embark on the exploration, Yuri searched for different local specialized instructors to go with him since Tarek is bent on the 2 weeks of training. They all refused because he lacked the required experience. Therefore, Yuri eventually went diving on his own. On April 28, 2000, Yuri got all the necessary equipment ready for his diving expedition at the Blue Hole. His single air cylinder, helmet with a camera attached to it, and a belt filled with weights, and as soon as he got them set, he embarked on his expedition. Yuri started his dive into the Blue Hole cave. When descending, he realized that his rate of descent was way too fast. Therefore, he started to use his buoyancy control device to slow his descent. But nothing happened as he didn't slow down. This was probably because Yuri had more weight than his buoyancy gadget would indicate, because it was faulty. Possibly the camera he attached to his helmet added to his weight, and this affected his balancing. He started to sink to depths that he didn't plan to go, and the nitrogen volume in his tank began to decrease, resulting in filling his body with nitrogen. Yuri quickly got to a depth of 262 feet. When diving at depths of 100 feet or more, divers will be exposed to nitrogen narcosis. This alteration in consciousness will increase the partial pressure of nitrogen. It can result in hallucinations, euphoria, confusion, impaired judgment, and overconfidence. This happened to Yuri because the video evidence showed that he started to lose his grip, and in his desire to get back to the surface, he panicked and might have overfilled his buoyancy control device, or BCD. Doing this would result in a blowout and may have tampered with the control of his buoyancy and positioning. This proves that his buoyancy control device was not functioning properly, because a blowout shouldn't have happened. Besides, when diving beyond 213 feet, the partial pressure of oxygen rises to such a level that it becomes toxic to the central nervous system, also known as oxygen toxicity or oxygen poisoning. It can cause a variety of symptoms, such as breathing difficulties, dizziness, and seizures. Technical divers are aware of the likelihood of this happening, so they take along multiple gas tanks to help them combat the effect of narcosis. In the case of Yuri, he was using a single nitrogen-oxygen mix cylinder rather than multiple gas cylinders containing trimix. Trimix is a mixture of oxygen, nitrogen, and helium to help in narcosis reduction because the tank contains a lower percentage of nitrogen. After everything turned black, the only sound on the video to be heard was that of Yuri struggling to breathe. This went on for around 5 minutes. Yuri began screaming. His breath was more frequent and shallow, and he tried to pull off his gear because the weight was pulling him down. However, even though he pulled off all his gear for his final attempt to get back, he had gone way too deep, and the weight of the water will make it impossible for him to resurface. He could be heard panicking as he removed his regulator. The camera then dropped to the floor and face down. And as Yuri struggled for survival while vigorously kicking, he stirred up dirt till he gave up the ghost. The camera that Yuri affixed on his helmet showed us that there was no supernatural force attributed to the deaths that had occurred in the Blue Cave. This is because his camera recorded the moments up until death, which was evidence of everything that happened to him underwater. He dove beyond the limit of his technical knowledge. The camera was still intact when his body was recovered underwater. The video lasted about 7 minutes, which also revealed how Yuri drew out his regulator. One day after the incident, Yuri's mother begged Tarek to help them recover his body from the Blue Hole. Tarek, one of the world's most renowned deepwater divers, commented in numerous interviews that he had lost count of the number of bodies he had recovered from the Blue Hole seafloor. According to him, the number easily exceeds 100 bodies. They all were experienced divers, and they all underestimated the dangers beneath the tranquil surface. Tarek found Yuri's body at a depth of about 302 feet. 2 days later, he presented Yuri's belongings to his heartbroken mother, together with the still-functioning camera. In the video captured by himself with the helmet camera, Yuri's face wasn't shown, but he went through noticeable anguish. He started this diving as a normal expedition, but ended up in a perplexing situation, which later resulted in his death. He became disoriented as he was struggling in the deep, coupled with a high rate of breathing. Sand was kicking up, forming clouds within the depth that he was. He removed his breathing equipment. Everything that happened showed that being overly confident caused Yuri's demise. He ignored checking to ensure his BCD was working properly. He dove without undergoing the required training and without a diving partner. And his camera was an added weight. Such a sad demise. In 2008, an Austrian named Karl Marx died in this same cave. Also, James Smith, age 23, on whose plaque is an inscription, "Don't let fear stand in the way of your dreams." Two friends also died in this blue hole in 1988, Tarek El-Kadi and Daniel Malik. All these men's names are among the 14 plaques that were placed on the cliff opposite Blue Hole in honor of their deaths. Although these are not all the deaths that occurred at Blue Hole, most of them are not counted officially. Roughly 130 people have lost their lives in this cave. Guidelines for safety purposes are always being enforced because the diving sport is built on a system with a code of practice to be observed by every diver. Uncertified divers have been banned from entering the Blue Hole. Since guiding protocols have been made compulsory at this diving site, the name should also be changed. Every time divers decide to go beyond the limit, new hazards are encountered. Due to the records of deaths in the Blue Hole, many have concluded that it's cursed. Is it? Well, Tarek said during an interview that he has no faith in Blue Hole being accursed, but from his 20 years of experience searching out the bodies of divers, he said, "The people who dive here have created their own curse." Due to the increase in diving hazards and deaths, the Egyptian Chamber for Diving and Water Sports, CDWS, placed security personnel at the Blue Hole. For any diver to be permitted into the Blue Hole, there must be a certified guide who ensures that they adhere to every safety procedure. Though the recreational diving limit is 131 feet, the depth of the arched roof is 170 feet. Experienced technical divers with standard equipment find it easier to dive safely at Blue Hole. One of the most difficult challenges divers are likely to face here is managing their oxygen. When any delay occurs there, the time needed to dive through the horizontal section will require more than one oxygen cylinder to safely dive back to the surface. We would like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching, take a dive on the like button. Consider subscribing to our channel and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we come back with another exciting cave diving story.